So 150,000 of you guys enjoyed my previous Battlefield 6 tips video on how to stop dying. Now it's time to improve our skills even further. What is going on, guys? TheBrokenMachine here. Hope you guys are all doing well today. In this video, I've got you guys an extended tutorial on positioning fundamentals. Meta builds will only get you so far out there. It's time to incorporate these tips into your own gameplay so you'll be less likely to die, get shot in the back, capture more flags, and most importantly, have a much easier and fun time out there on the battlefield. Good positioning is essentially about two things. One, gathering information about your opponents and what's going on around the map. Two, use that information to counter your opponents in various ways. These two are not separate, but if you are new and improving your skills, it may be helpful to think of them in that kind of way. So a real simple example here, checking the corners as I approach this situation here. See that guy, take a couple of hits, have a look down there. We're going to turn the corner here, don't shoot straight away. Think that guy on the left, rotate around the room. I know the layout of the room, going to get that kill, going to get this next kill, take out this guy, no one's in front of me, and we're going to pull back. Take our time, go back to where the enemies were first initially, and that right there is good positioning. Too fast? Yeah, I thought you might say that, so let's break it down even slower. We begin at the start of the stairs, having a look ahead, making sure we are not making any silly mistakes. Now, we approach in, checking our corner, using these boxes as cover to conceal ourselves. We see this guy on the left, take some shots, have a look down the middle, nobody's there, we're good. Now, enemies are in the corner on the right here, so we're going to have a little peek. We see one guy, but we don't shoot early. We wait, we take the shot on this second one. Now we're going to rotate around the room. Remember, I know this layout. We're going to take out this guy, have a look around, check in our corner. We don't know if someone's flanked behind us. And then we look back, take out this guy, take out the res, and now we're going to look back again. Always keeping the enemy positions in mind. And an enemy is right there. And we come back, see if there's any more. Bit of a hyper-aware place down there. Pretty simple clip. That is exactly what we're going to be exploring today and helping to improve your guys' gameplay in Battlefield 6. That was a real simple example, but you see the two things I'm doing. I'm using good positioning to gather information, then using that to counter the enemies. With the first engagement, positioning was to figure out the whereabouts of the enemies. The second, using their positioning against them in some kind of way. It's not really that difficult when you think about it, is it? That is essentially what good positioning is. Information gathering and countering. Rinse and repeat, and you'll be making better plays in no time. It is fairly straightforward within the streets of Cairo. Being out in the open fields doesn't actually change the strategy much though. You just have to be using positioning to gather information in more intelligent ways. A common approach is to peek over hills or open areas and retreat again and again, so you're not fully exposing yourself to the entirety of the landscape ahead. This is where the more important aspect of positioning comes in: angle isolation. This is something many players are currently doing but may not be consciously aware of. Angle isolation is where you intentionally limit the number of angles you are exposed to. So for example, you run out into the open here on Cairo, you expose yourself to a large number of angles and potentially too many opponents. Your best approach is to move from area to area, limiting the angles you are exposed at. If you're unsure of what's ahead, it's best to go for tight corner peaks. Longer peaks when you want to see the next area or two ahead. Great for observing down long corridors and streets. What we are essentially doing here is breaking the map down into smaller pieces that are more easily digestible and understood. So you're not having to consider all the angles and expose yourself to far too many enemies than you can easily deal with. Obviously, some maps are just too complicated and too large that it's impossible to completely predict what's going on throughout them, but these tips do still apply. Let's use another example to improve positioning and play better overall. So a common situation: corners. How should you approach them? Well, there is essentially 4 ways. Number 1, the tight corner. Great for close range setups, SMGs, shotguns, pistols, and aggressive plays. Not so great if there's enemy areas ahead of you. Number 2, the wide shot. Great for medium and longer range weaponry. Number 3, safety first. This is where you approach a corner with a safe spot in mind, where you could run to if things don't go your way. Lots of examples of these on Cairo. Often cars and walls you could use as cover or conceal yourself behind. Keep in mind, enemies can use this trick against you. That's where the real skill lies. So imagine a fight went a little crazy here. Expect them to be sitting on this next spot. We'll talk a bit more how the enemies can use good positioning against you later on, but do keep it in mind as you're listening to this guide. And last but not least, number 4, slicing the pie. always good to come home to hot pie. Approach the corner, slicing the pie. You take it piece by piece, peeking for enemies and taking them out if needed. Great for flanks on bigger player modes, risky in the smaller modes where players tend to have better understandings of where your opponents are. Great for hotspots and modes like Breakthrough as well, where you tend to have a better idea of players' positions. Slice each section piece by piece. Now, some people like to go for a really smooth slice. Some people like to go piece by piece, a little bit jittery. There's no real better way to do it. You might want to try different techniques and see which tends to work better for you. Some situations though, you want a smooth movement. Particularly if you think someone is right in the corner, nice slow smooth movement might help you out. Again, for the new player, it may be easier to think about these separately. Which is the better suited approach will come with time. Do be sure to keep all of these techniques in mind when a new map drops. On day one, if you're going to be using some of these, you're going to have such a better time. Now, you're probably thinking, Broken Machine, I've watched your videos and your streams. You don't always play like this all the time. It is true, I don't. These are just helpful approaches to playing better at Battlefield. You cannot check every corner, you have to make plays, and you will risk dying at times, especially when playing the objective. It's just the way it is. But you can limit how many mistakes you do make along the way and win more battles. Now, I do hope these things are making sense. Make sure to have fun while you're learning these and improving your own gameplay, whether it's from my video or someone else's, or just something you're doing yourself. Don't overcomplicate all of this in your head though. It is essentially thinking about two things. Where can my opponents come from, and how can I outplay them? Keep these two questions in mind, and you'll become a much better player in no time. There is more things in the game and techniques you can use to help decide where you're going to position yourself as you move around the map. The HUD, or the heads-up display, is one of the most helpful. On the spawn screen here, you can see who holds which flags. You can use this information on the minimap to help figure out where your enemies are most likely to come from and where you should go. Do be sure to set on-foot zoom radius in the settings to the maximum here to show more information around you. You don't want to be glancing too often at the minimap. It's always best to look after an area is cleared, and especially in open areas. You can always position yourself to allow for a longer look at the minimap. Stairs are good for this, behind an object of some kind, a wall especially. Playing well isn't just about good positioning within your own gameplay. It's about understanding other players' positioning and how that affects you. So for example, you've got a kill on the staircase here. Enemies could come left or right. Try to anticipate that. They may come for a quick peek here, so be ready for it. Or you may get outnumbered from both sides, so perhaps maybe not push forward after a kill. We've all been there. After a kill, we move forward, run into enemy lines of sight, and get taken out. Not really considering our positioning in that previous fight and how that affects the game going forward. Again, we've all approached an area or building and heard a fight ahead, and we naturally try to anticipate where that enemy may be, right? Your opponents are doing that against you too, obviously. So like the stair example, always be ready for the next angle where enemies can come from. So for example, if an enemy's shot on the stairs, take a quick peek, move in, move out, see the next area before you move in, and then go for the stairs. Just like I mentioned earlier, breaking the maps down into smaller pieces allows you to digest the map and information ahead more easily and increases your chance of survival. Combine that with centering and you'll become a wholly different player. Centering is similar to limiting angles of exposure we discussed earlier. Centering is where you have your crosshair ready for the next opponent. So stairs example again, common situation, have the crosshair ready for an opponent to be there. Maybe no one is there, it doesn't matter. By doing this, you are more likely to win a fight. If you're already aimed at where they're going to be, you'll have a much easier time. Exactly the same strategy for long corridors and those pesky sniper spots. You center your crosshair ready for where they are probably going to be. Take the shot, simple. Combine the great positioning limiting angles of exposure provides with centering and you can be one serious player. Want to take that to an even further level? How about developing a hyper-aware playstyle? You ever watch a Battlefield video and the player just seems to constantly snap to where enemies are coming from, or even straight onto opponents out of view? And you're like, are they cheating? How do they know? What's going on here? Well, what they're essentially doing is speeding up the process. So instead of waiting on opponents to appear or try to position yourself for the next best fight, you constantly anticipate where enemies can come from and aggressively position yourself accordingly, while keeping angles of exposure and centering in mind. It is a strategy that I'd only recommend for experienced players. We've all seen that new player spinning around, too high of a sensitivity, dying too often. You don't want to be that player. If you watch my streams, my playstyle shifts with how I'm feeling and what's around me. Sometimes more of a smooth aim, smooth movements, and smooth voice to kind of player me, and then other times I like to be quite snappy. It's part of my process. I don't always like to play exactly the same kind of way, but there is no best way to play. Often, slow smooth, smooth fast are words that mostly suit how I approach the game, but understanding how a hyper-aware player handles things should help improve your own positioning too. There will be times when you've just got to be snappy, you've got to be quick, you've got to be kind of all over the place with your gameplay. Taking risks and putting yourselves out there is all part of the game. So don't beat yourself up over dying while you're learning all of this. It happens to everyone, and it is inevitable when it comes to playing the objective. While this tutorial is intended to improve your own gameplay from a practical standpoint, don't forget the mental game, have fun while doing it, and relax. It's just a video game, enjoy yourselves. I will be talking about the mental game very shortly, a topic that is incredibly important to me, especially when I'm streaming. Do be sure to drop a like on your way out, guys, if you appreciate videos and guides like this. Enjoy your day, take it easy, and I'll see you guys very soon. Make sure to turn on notifications, catch up with the live streams. Catch you later, guys. Take it easy.